Oh, hey folks, I'll be a little confused doing this video because I dropped my phone 12 minutes into this, so I may not remember what I said, so it'll be a little bit confusing, but I wanted to tell you this story. It's not really a story, but it's a commentary on a video that I watched, and I will put a link to the video so you can take a look at it first and you can come up with your own conclusion or thoughts on it, and then you'll listen to my thoughts and you'll probably be in agreement with me, but you won't be in total agreement with me because everybody thinks that I'm a racist because I actually see things for what they are. So this story, commentary on a video I saw, was about what I think was either a northerner in England or he was from Ireland, because he had a kind of a really strange accent. And he had also been brain damaged with the British have a new thing now, and what they do is they pronounce TH as F. This is because they want to live in antiquity, and when they move out of antiquity, they have to do something clever. Like the Filipinos reverse the P's and the F's. Folks, that is really, really hard to deal with as an American. It's so bizarre because sometimes you can't tell what's being said because it's just not normal. But that's what they do. And what they're doing now in England is, aside from the antiquated, useless, non-human, ancient, it was human at the time, but now you become not human. So what you have is, you have the Brits that are saying their words like thank you. They don't say thank you. They say fine, thank you. And they've made this TH into an F sound. That's because it's kind of like in the 1930s when people first started laughing. And, you know, anything that gave them a chance to laugh, they would laugh. Because, as you know, before the 1930s, people didn't laugh. So, of course, it's going to make people laugh, any little thing. So, with the British, it's the same way. They became human. You know, they were human before in the 14th century, but not now. They don't qualify as human. So when you're doing your F's and all that bullshit, what you need to do before you go to Thailand, because this is what he wanted to do. He lost his job as a computer tech, and they replaced him with younger blood, and he had, he figured he'll take advantage of this, and I guess he had about 200,000 US dollars and about maybe it wasn't 200,000, maybe it was like 100,000. I forgot now, but he had a considerable amount, but not 5 million. When you have 5 million, please feel free to move to the Philippines. I stress that because you'll have enough money to rebound from any problem that you deal with, including, by the way, if you do something really fucked up, like molesting a girl that's too young or whatever, you'll be able to deal with that, and you'll be able to throw back a couple San Miguel's or Red Horse with the people who arrest you after the fact, because they'll take your 60,000 US dollars and you'll walk. Unless it's like really, really bad. Unless it's really, really bad. Anyways, so there's a checklist of things that you have to do in order to be able to travel to the Orient. Now, if you want an absolute green light to the Orient, to Philippines or Thailand, and to be honest with you, I want to admit this, I've never been to Thailand. All I really know about that is that the women shave, if you know what I mean. Down below, they all shave. And it's not, it's just mandatory. That's what they do. It doesn't have to be mandatory. That's just the game. It'll be rare if you ever see anything that isn't shaved. That's what I'm told, and I believe it. I've seen, you know, some things on that. I won't expound upon that. But if you have 4 or 5 million US, you're gonna do okay. If you make a couple mistakes, you can regroup and you can redo. But most men don't go there with that kind of money because they don't have that kind of money, and they go there with like 150,000 or 300,000 and a pension and they don't understand how quick it can go due to the natural crap that you deal with these countries. You deal with natural crap. And I'll explain that to you later. I've got to walk east again. I have to pee badly. And there's not a place I can go. But it's so cold that I have to walk into the sun for 10 more minutes before I can turn and go west again with the sun on my back. Sorry about this. It's just the nature of the game. By the way, I don't know if I said this before because I did a video for 12 minutes on this. And please check out the link. Look at it, and then you can watch my reactions on this as I'm going to give you. And you can come up with your own reaction. And if you're a woman, don't bother, okay? You can let yourself go, and you can get gunt and big fat bellies and have a big set of jugs, and you'll get guys fawning all over you. We already know the game. The ones of us that know what's happening, we know what the game is. It is completely useless to try to get a woman. Completely useless here in the United States. That's why men go to the Orient, okay? All right, so now that we cleared that up, okay, let's talk about what you need to go and be with women in the, if you want to get a wife or you want to settle down and live in the Philippines. Now, I'm saying this, and it's a sticky point. I don't like talking about it because everybody is different and everything is relative. However, I'm going to say this in a sequential need and a pre-check in order to be able to make men understand what they need if you're going to go to the Philippines. The first thing, if you're British, scratch going to the Philippines, especially Thailand. And I want to tell you, I have no experience with Thailand. The only experience that I heard was that it can be so fucking corrupt that I'll tell you a real quick story on the side of this, okay? I saw a guy that was the most doddering old man that I ever saw in the Philippines. And he would walk like this. Like, you can't see my feet, but he would walk like this. And like, he thought nothing of going into these sex bars and so forth. And, the women did what, women are going to do. They'll ask him to play pool and this and that. And the problem was he just couldn't find action. And that was because he was the oldest man that I ever saw in the Philippines. He must have been like 84, 85 years old. And I mean, usually by that time they're gone. They'll stay from when they're 66 or 73, and they'll stay until they're like 78 or 79 or maybe 80, if they're healthy. And then they go back to wherever they came from. That's typically what happens. And I'm being completely honest about this. So that guy, he was a nice guy. He was a nice enough fella. He wasn't mentally slow or anything. He was just old. And I met him at a place called Bamboo Gardens. That was the name of the place. And they had girls over there that, kind of danced on stage a little bit, but it's a little tiny little stage. It was a little small hole in the wall. And fucking wind, man. I'm glad I came back here because the wind is still strong and cold. But the sun is heating my back and it's helping. So this place had about 6 girls. I would say 5 or 6 girls. They were all pretty. And I went there, and I'll get back to the story in a minute. I'm only adding this for color. And I liked one of them a lot. The little small one was very attractive. And I liked her. And I think she knew that, too. And, so I played pool over there because there was a pool table. And they play pool with you in there, whatever, Not much more than a thong, actually. And, they might put on their little thing there when they're all dolled up or whatever. But I didn't have my girlfriend with me at that time. And this is a long time ago. That was back in the early 2000s. And I went ahead and I stayed overnight there. And on the first night, I think it was the second night. I'm not sure. It was first or second night. That little girl, she knocked at my door at around 1 o'clock. And she just made the deal. And I didn't have anything to say about it, really. I liked her, and I think she knew I liked her. I never really said anything to her. I think I might have told her that she was the prettiest one here or something like that. You know, I always do something like that, right? You're always going to say something like that, right? So 1 o'clock, she comes over. Sorry, folks, I have to get into the fucking sun or I'm going to fucking freeze up here. Much better. So she came over and knocked on the door at 1 o'clock. And she laid me down on the bed and she says, "Where's your wallet?" I said, "Over there." And she reached in and she took $40 US, two $20 bills. I'm telling you the honest to God truth here. And she took it and then she got on top of me and she did her thing and then she left. And I did my thing too, fortunately. But, you know, it wasn't one of the better experiences of my life, but it was kind of nice because at least the girl wanted me, you know. But she might have done that to all the guys. I don't know. But that was kind of nice. And then I think I had met my wife at that time, roughly, or whatever. And since I think it's been torn down long ago, like in 2008 or 2009, I think they tore it down. It can only go so long with that before the PNP, the Philippine National Police, get over. So, anyways, this old guy who was at that place, he wound up being unsatisfied with that whole deal, as he would walk around like this, going like this. I mean, that's exactly how this guy was. He was the most doddering old man I have ever seen in the Philippines, ever. He decided to try his luck in Thailand. I don't know what town he went into, probably Bangkok. And when he got there, he was killed immediately. He never made it to the hotel. The taxi driver was implicated in, from what I'm told, because I talked to his friends the next time I went there, which was maybe a year later. And they said that the taxi driver was implicated in that plot, and he wasn't asking for marijuana or anything like that. They just got him. And that's why I would be very skeptical about going to Thailand. And also, I don't know if they drive on the right-hand side or left-hand side, but, I mean, that's real fucking hard to get used to. I had a guy that came over. His girlfriend was dating me long ago, and it was a little British girl that fucking took me for everything I had, practically. And she was real nice to me at first, and I to her. That'll be another story time. And the guy, Darren, came over, and he was your typical Brit in 1987, complete with the Pierre Cardin suit that he wore every Saturday or every Friday to the pub. And he would meet a girl in his Pierre Cardin suit. And that's kind of like how it goes in Britain, right? That's when at that time, that was kind of like the tippy top. And you went to the pub and all that. So, anyways, the guy got killed. And that's why I would not go to Thailand. I just wouldn't do it. You have to have real money. You'd have to be like a David Carradine who wound up getting himself killed, being asphyxiated because he liked, evidently, I shouldn't say this, I don't know, but he was a strange dude. But he liked weird sex, and he wanted to be suffocated while he was ejaculating. Essentially, I think is what the prostitute said. And things didn't quite work out the way he thought, and he wound up suffocating, asphyxiated, because something went wrong and mucked up the works. So that was that with David Carradine. And David Carradine was a big star, and he did Kung Fu. He was the original Kung Fu. And the guy, the guy who hired him did an interview, and he said this guy was fucking crazy. Carradine was crazy. He said he walked in for the interview, and he said that he said, what makes you want this role? What thinks you have something over other people? And Carradine went to him, jumped up, and kicked an area like right here on his wall. And it left the mark. And he goes, that's why. And they hired him almost immediately. He was a really strange dude. He made that whole Kung Fu thing. And a lot of people like him because he kind of gave the idea to kids that they didn't need to carry weapons. And that's what they gave him credit for. Now, let's get back to the story at hand. So, you want to go to the Philippines and you're a retarded Brit or a retarded Irishman. Now, And you're all like that. So the first thing you have to do, you either have to chum up to an American, or you need to go and either live with an American, or you have to take really good lessons in Yank English. Because they're not going to respect you. And this is like the very first thing. You have to become non-retarded. And this is really a bad thing to say about them, but it's the truth. When you go to a girl and you say, "Here," and "there," that isn't going to go well in the Philippines. They're not going to understand it. So you can't say, "Let's go here, there." Okay, it's not going to work. So you have to become human. You have to have a human language. And you're going to say, "Let's go here. Let's go there." Not here, here. All that bullshit that you fucking Brits are lost in your antiquity of language and have become mentally deficient. And foes and all that bullshit that you like to talk. You're going to have to lose it. All right? So the first thing you have to do is you have to at least be able to have a chance for people, women, to understand what the fuck you're saying. Okay, that's the very first thing. And here and there, it ain't going to cut it. Okay, that's the first thing. Then again, there's a lot of Australians over there. But you see, the thing is with the Australians is that the Filipino women get it. They say, "Oh, this is a fucking retarded clown. I see. It's not just here or there, but it's moi and all that." And they say, "Oh, we get it now." So this guy is the whole package of a fucking retard. And they just say, "Look, we understand that he's retarded and fully retarded." And they'll get that. And I mean, I went there one time and I got up in the middle of the night and this guy was Australian, the owner, who had married a woman, and they opened up this motel, and I said, "Could I get some water?" And he goes, "Water, water," because they say water. You want some water? It's like fucking retarded, and he's making fun of me. And I didn't even get into it because you don't want to get into a fight in the Philippines, but it's water. It's like fucking retarded. You understand? Now, you may not think so because you're a retarded Brit, but once you get out of the British places, you'll see that you're looked at as quite a retard. So the first thing you have to do is you have to become human. That means you have to go, and by the way, the Canadians will do. If you have a Canadian friend, just don't say a boot, because that's what they do. That's their only failing. Otherwise, they talk just like us. So you can get a Canadian guy and they'll just stay away from the word a boot. Okay? Go boot your business. But that's their only failing. And call your hat a hat, not a toque. Okay? Other than that, the Canadian English is fine too. Really. I'm being honest about that, okay? I know we're supposed to have that big Canadian-American, that Can-Am war where 50 million die, as South Park indicated. Now it looks like it might come true with Trump fucking up and pissing off the Canadians. By the way, did you know that 80% of the Canadians live within 100 miles of the United States-Canada border? It makes sense because, you hear about these people from Saskatchewan and all that. But folks, there's virtually no one in those areas. I mean, the weather is so ridiculous. You couldn't possibly live there unless you were a hardcore Canadian. So, anyways, we'll get back to the story here. Sorry, this is going to be a long, drawn-out story. So this guy was a smart guy. He had a brother, or I think he said it was his brother, that went to Thailand, and he said that his brother scored poon, and that he loved it. It was like the greatest thing since sliced bread. But he said that his brother, he did not have a great deal of respect intellectually for his brother because he was highly susceptible to the pleasures of the flesh and so forth and so on. And we won't get into it. So he thought he had this nice feeling about it. His brother did. So he said he'll go. But what he was going to do is he was going to dot every I and cross every T. Which makes sense, because if you're going to go over there with the idea of living over there for a while, then you might as well, and you might as well be real smart about it. So he bragged about how he really went through these massive checklists, like, not giving money and this and that, and he was going to be smart about things. And like I said, the link is in the description. Watch it. It's like 20 minutes. Or maybe it's 30 minutes. I don't know. It was a good story. It was a good story. By the way, these bushes, some of them have these red berries, and I had some yesterday that were so yummy. Do we have it here? Maybe this is where. Are those flowers? Are those the flowers? Yeah, they're flowers, but the bushes, something like this, have these beautiful red berries, and they're not all sweet, but some of them are. If you get them real lush, boy, are they yummy, and they're really good for you. I'm sure they're loaded with vitamin C, but we have not stumbled upon them yet. It's probably down one of these streets. Meanwhile, I've got to pee like a racehorse, and I've got to get to the area where no one will see So, anyways, he's going through this whole checklist, and he's not going to be like one of the people who got fucked up. He's going to do it the right way. Long story short. Then he gets over there. First of all, the second thing you need, and I only say this because it was so important. The first thing you need is you have to be a human being. He was not. He was still speaking in he, de, and all that bullshit without doing the full clown routine of the Australians. So the Filipinos say, okay, we're going to have to go full mental retard on this, okay? Because moi and all the rest of it. So, he wasn't quite that bad, okay? So if you're going to do it, you got to go full retard, okay, like the Australians over there. Then you'll get along with it because they realize you're going full retard. If you're a Brit, you're still going to sound like you're normal in most of your words, but some of them are going to give you away as a fucking retard. So that's why you have to go and take American English lessons for like maybe 3 or 4 months. Believe me, I know what I'm speaking of on this. Or go to a Canadian, like I told you. They're just as good. The second thing, and this is a big one. You have to have a manhood when you go there. I don't care whether you're small or whether you're big or whether you have sex once a week or whether you have sex 3 times a month or whatever it is. But you have to bring a manhood with you to the Philippines or anywhere that you go in the Orient. You know why? Because 99.9% of the men, unless they have a severe injury or something like that, that's possible. Like a war injury or accident or something like that, that's different. And that's a good idea. If you go in there in a wheelchair, they'll take really good care of you. It's the truth. They might take some of your money, but they're going to take plenty of money here from you in the United States. And you'll have zero quality of life. I mean, if you can't feel anything anyway, it's nice to have a woman rub your face. If you can feel that, it's nice to have a woman rub your face and know that they care about you, at least some about your money, at least. You won't find that here. Believe me. They don't give a shit. They can find money every which way women can here in the United States or England or whatever the hell it is, Ireland or whatever. So that's the second most important thing, and it comes very close to the being human aspect of the language. It's very important. It may even be more important, but I put it second. And the guy decided to go over there with no manhood. And yes, he had one, but in listening to the story, I listened to this guy who was supposed to be a genius. And he was saying that, he had to wait because it was in 2022, and he had to wait for things to die down with the COVID-19 scam. And he was a big believer in it. Why? Because he referred to it as the COVID-19, except he called it the name that everybody told you to call it. So that was trump card. Because what do you know immediately? You have somebody who has no manhood, who would do anything at the time, and I told you about this, and you can believe me, I want you to worship me as a god. That's what I want you to do. Not many people will. But there's ample reason to do it, and you'll become a lot smarter. You'll become a god yourself. All you have to do is worship me as God. I have no hypocrisy worse. No one has it worse than I. I'm not like a cop. I'm like God. I know what I speak of. So he goes over there talking about the COVID-19 in his video. Now, they had a king of England at the time. His name was Boris Spassky. All right? He got together with a guy named Neil Ferguson, who was a mathematician, scientist, predictor of death. He was an biologist, whatever he was, and he had determined that almost 500,000 people were going to potentially die in the UK alone from the COVID-19. And Boris Spassky, being the King of England at that time, he listened to primarily, almost exclusively him, Neil Ferguson. And with great regret, he let all of his British underlings, said that it was with great regret that they all, including the men, they had to go into their flats. This was a great disappointment. He hated to do it, but no more going and making love to your girlfriend or anything else. That didn't make any difference to the British. They have no manhood. So what's the difference if you have to stay in your place and you can't copulate? There's no manhood anyway. So what happened? That's exactly what they did. Because Neil Ferguson told the King of England, Boris Spassky, to make sure everybody went in, and it became mandated. So they did. And the British went that night into, after they made the decree, the King of England makes decrees. So Boris Spassky told them to go in, and they went in. Regrettably, of course. While they were doing that, Neil Ferguson, mastermind of this whole fucking scam, he didn't go out. He sent for his married, open marriage girlfriend. Brought her to his place across merry old London, England. And they did something or another. You can leave it to your imagination. Okay? Now, she was living married with a man, but she wanted a, quote, open marriage. You can take it from there and figure out whatever it is. So, why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because there was no more reason to listen to this story. If at the time you went in as a Brit and you believed any of this, even if you called it by the name they gave you, you were sodomized by your King of England, Boris Spassky at the time, in 2020 and 2021, and Neil Ferguson, the man that told you about how 500,000 people would die, and it was so dangerous that they had to take these measures. Meanwhile, he sent for his girlfriend at least 2 times and maybe more. The first time was the night that everyone went into their flat, as they call it over there, and he sent for his girlfriend so he could get a little married piece of ass. Folks, this was so ridiculous, and I read the whole things on it, and the girl was very attractive, and she had a lot of problems later because the people really didn't like her because they could not stay in their flats, because the people who wanted to and get on board with not dying 500,000 people, 500,000 people, they were really convinced of this, and they knew that this was a black eye. And, of course, the Brits, after they realized that they had a possibility to get their sexual beings back and have a member, they realized that they had to go out the next morning, go to the bobbies and say, we don't care about your whistle, we don't care about your tall hat, we don't care about your fucking billy club, we're going out and scoring poon, and we don't care what Neil Ferguson says, because he went out. Actually, I take that back. He sent for his girlfriend, his married, open marriage girlfriend, and you can check all this out yourself. I'll do videos on it, but most of you are too stupid to believe. You think you're so smart, and you're so stupid that you don't understand one thing from another. So, you can check it all you want. It's the truth. It's just a waste of time to tell you because you all want to call it the name they gave you because you're sodomized. So the British at least had a chance, the men at least had a chance to get their member back. And they went out and they fought the bobbies. And that proved to be trump card. Because as stupid as the British are, they realized that if the one that told us how dangerous it was and we all had to go into our flat, if he was out there doing the hibbity-dibbity, with his married, open marriage girlfriend, then what does this all accumulate to? You see, you're a fucking fuck mouth, shit mouth. So you're not going to understand that. You understand it kind of, but you still want to refer to it as the name they gave you. I will never refer to it as the name they gave us, ever. I'll call it a scam, I'll call it a hoax, I will call it the money-making grab, I will call it world control, the beginning of the apocalyptic retards, I'll call it whatever it was, but I will never refer to it as the name that they gave us. Because that means you're bending over and taking it into your anus, like the Brits did, before they figured it out. And it was trump card because they came out and they said, look, we're not doing it. If this guy who's telling us how dangerous it is, he goes out and does it himself, how dangerous can this be? So the reality is there was no danger. There was no danger greater than what has been coming at us down the pike for millennia. That's probably the truth. It may have been slightly elevated, or maybe elevated, but not to the point where it required 80 million people, cities shutting down, 40 million in China and all that. It's like something out of a fucking retarded novel by one of these science fiction writers, for God's sakes. Bunch of mental retards you are. My subs excluded. So if you decide to go to the Philippines or to the Orient, and the guy went over, and where does he go? Where does this fucking genius go? He goes to a bar. He sees a 31-year-old girl who's probably pretty attractive, even at that age, and he starts building up a very quiet, very patient relationship with her, and she referred to him in a different way than the other men that she dealt with, which she sent off lots of. She didn't want to have anything to do with it. But he did not know that the woman was married. She was married. And she could not get away. She had a child with a guy. And the excuse she gave is that he beat her, etc., etc. And he tried to apply for her. And he had to get all these documents saying that he was free to marry from his country and all this kind of stuff. And when she went in there, they discovered what she was, and her people told her this was not going to work. And that could have worked with him, except she set up a bank account for her with 20,000 US dollars and a joint account, because she behaved herself and they lived together. So when he finally went over there after like a month and a half or something, 2 months, whatever it was very quick. And, he's supporting her, he's supporting the mom because the mom doesn't have enough food to eat, the grandmother needs insulin, blah, blah, blah. It never ends in these countries with that. The daughter needed a better school, etc., etc. Nothing 3,000 or 4,000 US dollars won't fix every month or more. So what happens? That's what happened. And the girl took it. There was only like $2,000 in that $20,000. If she didn't do that, they would have probably made it. But she took it from both accounts. The guy figured it out, looked at the wall, and said, I'm out of here. In the best Irish twist that you can get. Anyways, folks, there's my story for the morning. I stick by it. I'm going to put the link in the description. Please don't be a dickless wonder. Call the Covert 19 what it is, Covert 19. Take care. Love you guys. Subscribe. Be nobody. And I'll see you later. Bye.